right, I'm sitting here with Trevor Sisson, and we are here to talk about youth ministries in the United States. Real quick before we start, I just want to go over the fact that confidentiality, if you say anything that I interpret as being a danger to yourself or to children, that's something that I'll have to breach confidentiality about, and um, I'll have to report that. So, do you have any questions about that? Does that make sense?
Absolutely, I understand.
Awesome. All right. So, about the youth ministry in the United States interests you?
Well, as we can see, youth ministries, the youth are our future, obviously. And as time goes on, we're seeing a decline in how they are doing. And me personally can relate to some of those things. And, my heart kind of reaches and breaks for those kids that are struggling. And I think we as a nation have let down our youth. And I think starting this year, 2016, is a great time to start.
All right. So you said that the youth are struggling. In what ways do you think that they're struggling?
Well, over the past decade, we've seen the youth start to struggle with secular things, meaning the rise of drug abuse and alcoholism.
Okay.
There's been a rise in teen pregnancies, teen homelessness, teen suicides. And as these things continue to go up, the question has to be asked, why is this happening, or how do we confront it? And I just feel like we as a nation, and especially we as a church, have failed to confront these things and to help these kids.
In what ways do you think the church has failed?
I think the church has failed because they haven't really addressed the issue of being Christian in a very secular world.
Okay.
And, not only warning, but enlightening these kids about, what drugs do and how it affects your body. And, saving marriage, or sex or marriage. And I feel like that's just something that church hasn't done. They haven't addressed the issues.
Now, I like the way that you said how to be a Christian in a secular world. Can you expand on that? What does that look like?
I think it looks like, the salt and the light, and I think it starts with the way you live. I think when you go out, there has to be a presence, the way you carry yourself, the way you interact with others, just, being nice, being generous, gracious, that the world needs to see, and we haven't really done a good job of that. And so to answer your question, really is to live differently so people understand that it's different.
Okay. And how exactly does that relate back to how the church is failing the youth?
I think it absolutely relates because we have to have the good role models. We have to have the men and women, I should say, that make Christianity look strong, look fun. And so many times we have the pop culture or the celebrities, doing the drugs, doing the alcohol, and that looks very appealing to those kids.
Mm-hmm.
And I think by starting to live in a Christian manner in a secular world, spreads that's okay, that's cool, that's acceptable, that's wanted.
Yeah.
And I think once we get that across, the kids see that and respond well to it.
The way that you described it, the church is letting down the kids by not educating them, but as well as not providing role models as to show them what this Christian life, this other life would look like.
Absolutely. And it really starts from the top. Leaders of the youth missions, I feel like, are getting too carried away with entertaining and filling a time slot. The kids are there for 2 hours,
Sure.
The kids shouldn't have to walk into a space and have to be there for a certain amount of time. They should want to be there. They should absolutely want to be there, be around those role models, and start to learn and get involved in the church.
Sure. So you're kind of moving this way, and I'm curious about this. What exactly do you think would need to change within the church's youth ministry specifically for it to be an improvement?
I think we have to create a safe environment. A safe environment that allows kids that if they are struggling, if they are alcoholics or abusing drugs or pregnant at 16, we have to create a safe environment where it's okay for that to happen. That it's not right, but to still accept them and bring them in and love them and to show them Christ.
So they need to create a safe environment. What kind of environment how would you describe that currently in the church? What environment would that be right now?
The environment right now in the church?
Yeah.
I feel like it's still very secularized, meaning I think church is a place where kids are going to gloat or to show off. They still want to look cool. They still want to act tough. They still want to present themselves. It's more of a presenting of themselves rather than a place to come and learn and grow.
Which you said earlier, the church is already doing perhaps not an adequate job at teaching and growing kids.
Correct. Because there's just this mindset amongst the youth that has to be broken, that being Christian does not mean you're not cool. Being Christian does not mean that you're going to get, beat up or teased. We have to create it that being Christian doesn't mean you're weak. Being Christian means you're strong.
Yeah, I like the way that you said that. And I think that was really well said. Are there any redeeming qualities to the youth ministries and churches right now? We've talked about the cons of it. What would you say are the pros?
There's absolutely pros. And what I said is not necessarily to bash or to hate, but to show that we need improvement. They do a good job with keeping kids off the streets. Mm-hmm. There's one benefit to it. Again, like the time slot thing. They fill a time slot, which is not necessarily a good thing, but it is a good thing because it does keep those kids in there. It does not force, but allows them to be in some sort of a Christian, hopefully loving environment.
Right.
But it does put them into a room, and it can start a conversation. And that's really where it all starts. It starts with conversation.
Okay. Well, I think we're running out of time. And so thank you very much for having this interview with me. I just want to end with the disclaimer that this interview that we have will only be shared between me and my professor and perhaps another classmate for editing purposes. And so if it's all right with you, I'd love to share it with them. And I'd also want to thank you for coming out and having an interview with me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Right. Perfect. First try. Good enough.
First try.
Hopefully that kept recording.